Welcome to Hardwood Handicappers with Zach Cohen, right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
This is Zachary Cohen, VSiN.com senior editor, with another episode of Hardwood Handicappers. Today is Tuesday, April 21st. We are recording this at 11 a.m. Eastern, and it has been a crazy, 24 hours in the NBA between the games last night being absolutely insane and then waking up to some big news in the association this morning. So we have a lot to discuss. We'll get into the first bit of news, which is Billy Donovan deciding to leave the Chicago Bulls, which I don't think it's that surprising. This is a guy that I think is ready for a new challenge at this point in his career. I think he wants to be coaching a playoff team and not a rebuilding team. What is surprising is that it does seem like Donovan could have had the UNC job last week or 2 weeks ago if he were willing to leave before the end of the regular season. But instead, UNC, got a little impatient, ended up hiring Mike Malone. I think Donovan would have been a better hire there. And now we just kind of have to wonder where Donovan ends up landing. But this is a guy that I believe is a very good coach. I know a lot of people kind of ripped on the Bulls over the last couple of years for being like a middle of the pack Eastern Conference team, which is never where you want to be. You either want to be, a contender or a tanking team. You never want to be in the middle because it's very hard to improve your roster that way. But a lot of that had to do with Donovan just exceeding expectations with bad rosters and doing a pretty sneaky good job of kind of developing players while winning games. He didn't have to sacrifice, the integrity of the game in order to develop young guys. He was able to kind of throw them in slowly, grow them a little bit at a time. But I think he's a really good coach. I think he's probably the best coach on the market. And I think that everyone's going to link him now to that opening in Orlando, where I think it's clear the Magic are going to move on from Jamal Mosley after this playoff run, wherever it ends. I mean, they are up 1-0 on the Pistons right now. It's not crazy to think that they are going to win a round and then go on to face the Cavaliers in the second round if the Cavaliers win their series against the Raptors, but I do think that's going to happen. But that is something that will be very interesting to monitor because Donovan actually did take the Orlando job back in 2007. And he ended up going back on that decision and returning to UF. So I wonder if ownership is going to be okay with hiring him after he kind of spurned them, not too long ago, although it was a very long time ago. But it was something that I do think was kind of, disappointing for them at the time. They ended up doing fine. They ended up bringing in Van Gundy, who did a good job for them. But it's just going to be interesting to see if that factors into their decision-making at all, or if there are other jobs that kind of open up for him that I'm not really seeing right now. I do think he'll get an interview with the Bucks. I just don't know why he would want to go to Milwaukee, especially if Giannis is going to be out the door. So I just think it's interesting that, this good of a coach is now available, and the way that this played out with the UNC situation, because it really did look like for a little bit that he was going to be the next coach of the Tar Heels. And now all of a sudden they're, sitting there with Malone. I wonder if they're upset about this timing, but it's just an interesting way to start the morning. Donovan is, a winner, a future Hall of Famer, and somebody with a lot of good years left. So it's not insignificant news, and wanted to talk about it before getting into the playoff action for tonight. But we will get into the picks now. I'll give you my 3 best bets for this evening before kind of doing some recap of what we saw last night. But we'll start with the best bets. We did have a really bad night last night, which is crazy because, look, I had the Nuggets as the second leg of a parlay. They were up 19 in the second quarter. I thought they should have won that game. I had the Knicks not to win, but I needed Karl Anthony Towns to do some damage, have the Knicks to win that series. I had the over on 217 in that game, and it was just an awful, awful loss. And I would call it a bad beat, the over, because that was a game where every quarter was flying high and being, very high scoring. And then the fourth quarter just got really ugly, and really ugly for the New York offense, especially because the Hawks, they, came back from 14 down and played really well offensively in the fourth quarter. It was the Knicks that just went completely ice cold, and we ended up missing that total by a couple of points, and it felt like one that should have got home. I also think the Towns player prop really should have gotten home. He had 28 PRA at the end of the third quarter. We needed 35.5 over. So that was something I thought he was going to hit, but ended up going 0-4. on a night where I really expected 3-1 and thought I was going to get 3-1. Was absolutely shocked at the end of the night where I'm just sitting there like, I can't believe that just happened. But hopefully we bounce back tonight. We do have a lot of plays for this evening, and it starts in the 76ers at the Celtics game 2, which tips at 7 p.m. Eastern. And this is a game where I'm actually going with the player prop. No sides or totals here, but it is the Celtics laying 14.5, total 216.5. And I just have a really hard time taking a favorite at 14.5, but I don't quite trust the 76ers here. So it's a player prop for me. I'm going Jaylen Brown over 25.5 points at -113. I played that to win 1.5 units, so it's a bigger play for me. And I also sprinkle Brown to have 30 plus points at +200. These were all posted to the Pro Picks page last night. So if you're not finding the numbers right now exactly, it's because I did put them in last night and they would have been available to VSiN Pro subscribers. So one of the reasons to become a VSiN Pro is early access to some picks. And last night was one night where I threw in all of my plays the evening before. So I hopefully have, better numbers here. And I believe I do for most of them. So I do hope that if you're listening to this podcast, you're able to find similar numbers. But look, that's one of the perks of being a VSiN Pro, as I said. But yeah, Jaylen Brown over 25.5 points, alternate points 30 plus. Brown had 26 points in game 1. And I feel like he could have done a little bit more. This is a really good matchup for a player like Brown, especially with Joel Embiid off with, the recovery for the appendectomy, because this is a Philly team that really struggles to defend at the rim on a good day and with Embiid. But with no Embiid to kind of challenge drivers at the rim, this is a matchup where I think that Brown should be able to just kind of get to the hole, finish at the bucket where he scores 30% of his points. Also, he has scored 26 plus points in 3 of his 5 meetings with the 76ers this year. So this is a number he is going over regularly in this specific matchup. And just looking at some of the other numbers, Philly is just 23rd in the NBA guarding in transition, where Brown scores 6.7 points per game. He is a blur in transition. He has size. He has athleticism, good finisher. I think he's going to have some success in those situations. And also Philly, 22nd in the NBA guarding spot up jumpers. And they also put opponents on the free throw line more than all but 10 other teams. So this is a team that does, get handsy. And Brown is a player that lives at the free throw line. I think he's going to have a big game tonight. And I do think this is a game where we're going to see him flirt with 30 plus points. I mean, this is a guy that played like an all NBA first teamer all year. Didn't need to do as much in game 1, but I think you're going to see a slightly better effort from Philly in game 2. And I think that that's going to mean that Brown needs to do a little bit more. But yeah, in regards to the side of the total, it's tough. I mean, I would have a lean on Philly plus 14.5 because I do think we're going to see a game or two in this series where the backcourt of the Sixers just gets hot. I mean, that is a really talented group when you're looking at Tyrese Maxey, VJ Edgecombe, and then Paul George on the perimeter, Quentin Grimes off the bench. Like, this team has a lot of shot making and a lot of firepower. And I just feel like it's going to be hard for the Celtics to keep them down every single game in this series. Maybe the better games come in Philadelphia. That wouldn't surprise me. That's only natural to play a little bit better at home. But it wouldn't shock me if we get a really close game in Boston at some point. I just think Maxey is going to have a moment in these playoffs where we see him score 40 plus, maybe even, flirt with 50 in one of these games, just putting the entire team on his back. So if I had to take something here, probably would be 76ers plus 14.5. But there is nothing for me in terms of side or total. It's just the Brown play. Let's move on to the Trailblazers at the Spurs. This one tips at 8:10 p.m. Eastern, and the Spurs over at DraftKings right now are minus 11.5. That is minus 105 on the juice, and the total is 219.5 in this game. This is another one. Put it in last night. I took the Blazers plus 12.5 at minus 120, and that was out there at Hard Rock. It was out there at one other place, but I forgot what it was, so can't exactly say for sure. But I would take the 11.5 with the Blazers if you absolutely have to, but would be looking for 12s if you can. But the reason I do like Portland in this game is I just kind of feel like my handicap for the first game wasn't awful. I thought the Blazers would be able to do a decent job defensively in the game, which I think that they did. I mean, it was a really good Wemby game, and the Spurs shot very well from 3. And that's something that, look, Wemby's going to have great games throughout these playoffs. It's going to happen potentially even tonight. There's really not much they could do about it. But in terms of the Spurs shooting really well from deep. I don't know that you're going to see that every single night. This team shot 15 for 33 from deep in game one. That's 45%. This team shot 35.9% during the regular season. So that's a much, much better number than they normally shoot. I think you're going to see San Antonio come crashing back down to earth in terms of, knocking down the three ball. And I do think Portland is going to shoot a heck of a lot better than they did in game one. They were 10 for 38 from three as a team. I think that there are going to be games where they shoot the three ball really well. I mean, after the All-Star break this year, this Blazers team made 14.4 threes per game. They shot it much better. And just kind of looking at the guys that were missing shots, Drew Holiday and Shaedon Sharpe combined to go 1 for 11 from deep. That's not something I see happening the rest of the series. I mean, Holiday is kind of a streaky shooter, but he is a good shooter. He is a guy that borders on 40%. Sharp is a very good shooter. These are guys that I trust to knock down good good looks. And I do think you're going to see some of them in this series. So I think that this Blazers team can play a lot better offensively. And you're probably going to see that right away. I mean, this is a Blazers team that was 7-5 against the spread under Thiago Splitter when coming off a game where they scored 100 or fewer points this season. So he is good at kind of getting his team right and getting them kind of more prepared the next time out to play a better game offensively. And also, this team is 12-9 against the spread when looking for revenge against an opponent this year. So that's another reason I think that Portland looks like a good play. And I do just think that there are some changes that can be made in this game in terms of adjustments that will help the Blazers just keep it a little bit tighter. Like, I think that one thing we're going to see less of for sure is switching on the perimeter. Like, I think you're going to see Drew Holiday glued to De'Aaron Fox in this game. I don't think that you want to switch as quickly, allow Fox to work on mismatches, put Holiday on Fox, take advantage of his elite on-ball defense, his physicality, kind of wear Fox down throughout the game. Like, that's what you want Holiday to do. That's why Holiday's here in Portland, because not only is he a great veteran leader, but he is the type of physical defender in a postseason setting that can wear on a very good guard, take them out of their game, take them out of, things towards the end of a game, because he will kind of have them tired and, not having their legs 100%. So I think that that's something we're going to see in this game a little bit. Also, I think you need to have Donovan Clingan just kind of parked in the paint in this one in a pseudo zone if you can, because I think Wemby absolutely tortured you at the rim and as a driver last game. If you want Wemby to beat you somewhere, you want it to be on jumpers. So I would have Clingan around the basket as much as possible. I'm sure that the coaching staff will, find that easier than I did, but I do think you're going to see some defensive adjustments from Portland. And that should be a good thing, because Portland is already a fantastic defensive team. The final 15 games of the regular season, they were the best defensive team in basketball. And by the way, this team wasn't that far off from covering in game one. It was a 13-point game. They were 11.5-point underdogs. One bucket goes one way, and that's a cover. So it's not like this was an easy Spurs win in game one. I think we're going to see a tighter game overall in terms of Portland having a chance to actually win it. But I do see San Antonio potentially kind of separating themselves at the end. But I think 11.5 or 12.5 should be enough. I grabbed 12.5 because that was available to me last night. Final game of the evening that I have a pick for before we kind of get into some recap from last night. It's the Rockets at the Lakers. Lakers are 4.5-point home underdogs. Total is 206.5. And heading into this game, the main thing we are all focused on is whether or not Kevin Durant will be on the floor. Durant is averaging 26 points per game, 5.5 rebounds per game, 4.8 assists per game this season. Shooting splits insane, 52% from the field, 41.3% from three, 87.4% from the line. He is still very much Kevin Durant. The only issue is he is 37 years old, and bumping knees with somebody is a major problem. And Durant missed game one with a knee contusion. They are calling it a very deep knee contusion that is kind of affecting his stability, and he is going to be a game time decision in game two. So there is a chance that he doesn't go tonight. There's a chance he goes tonight, but I took the Lakers plus 5.5 at -115 last night. I would take the Lakers plus 5.5 again today. If you can't find that anywhere, it will be cheap enough to buy it up to 5.5 and get through a key number that I would suggest doing that. But I do think that Los Angeles finds a way to keep this game close again, because look, these are the games that I expected the Lakers to be competitive in before the series. I had the Lakers plus 2.5. I also had the Lakers sprinkled on the money line at plus 530 before this series started. That was before I knew Kevin Durant was hurt, which means I thought Los Angeles would be able to keep these games tight when playing in LA. That doesn't change with Durant potentially coming back tonight. It definitely doesn't change with Durant potentially coming back at less than 100%. And having seen what we saw in game one, I feel a little bit better about the Lakers moving forward in this series before even getting Luka Doncic back, because I thought Los Angeles' defensive game plan was awesome in game one. I don't think that that's a game plan that they really adjusted much for no Durant, but they packed the paint really, really well. They forced the Rockets to take a lot of tough outside jumpers in game one. The Rockets did not shoot the three ball well. I also thought DeAndre Ayton played with a lot of energy, did a really good job of protecting the rim, and ultimately was a big part of the reason that Alperen Sengun didn't completely dominate game one. And if Ayton is playing like the energetic kind of fake rim runner that he was in Phoenix, because he's not a dunker, he's not necessarily a pogo stick shot blocker, but like that was the role he played when he was in Phoenix, and he did not enjoy playing it. But he is now playing that again in Los Angeles. And if he's doing a good job of just getting his hands up around the basket without fouling, moving his feet on defense and then finishing when he has good opportunities around the basket on the other end of the floor, this Lakers team is tough enough to keep things tight against the Rockets. And a lot of that has to do with LeBron James. LeBron was awesome in game one while doing it somewhat subtly. What's the word? He wasn't like dominating the game or standing out with the numbers, and he didn't exactly kind of jump off the page with everything he was doing, but made all of the right reads, scored when he needed to, applied rim pressure when he needed to, and that's what he's going to be counted on to do until we see either Luka or Reeves come back, if they come back. But LeBron, towards the end of the regular season, was great, kind of attacking out of the mid post, and we saw a little bit of that in game one, and he's just going to continue to attack the basket and create advantages for this Los Angeles team, which does have shooters around him. We saw Luke Kennard really rise to the occasion in game one. Don't know that you can expect that again moving forward. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if the Rockets just throw Amen Thompson on him and say, all right, this isn't happening again, but we will see. I mean, I do think that there are other guys that could rise to the occasion for the Lakers in terms of shot making, and just kind of help them keep this game close. And I do think that this is a game that the Lakers can win outright. So if you want to sprinkle some money line, I do not blame you. I'm just not doing it because I already have series prices, but plus 5.5, an absolute play for me. And I will add, like, I'm a little bit nervous about the fact that Ime Udoka has been really good throughout his career as a playoff coach when trailing in a series. 8-2 straight up, 9-1 against the spread in that situation. Also, this is probably a bit of a zigzag spot for Houston, but at the same time, the Lakers are 13-7, both straight up and against the spread, under JJ Redick as home underdogs of 6 or fewer. And I do think this is a unique situation where Los Angeles knows exactly how important this game two is, with the Luka situation being the way it is. This isn't a normal game two. They can't afford to say, all right, like, we want to win this one, but we can get another one in Houston. They should know that without Luka or Reeves, they're probably not winning in Houston. So they have to win the games in Los Angeles. And I do think you're going to see their, effort and intensity kind of reflect that. So I like the Lakers in this game. I like the Lakers plus 5.5. I would say not to take plus 4.5 again. Try to get 5.5, get to that key number. The key numbers in the NBA, 3, 5, 7. I think that would be, crucial for me. I wouldn't take it if I can't get 5.5, and you should be able to do it without having to pay too much juice. The NBA playoffs are here, and the edges are smaller than ever. VSiN Pro gives you the advanced analytics, player prop projections, and expert insights serious bettors rely on when every game matters most. Try it for only $9.99 for your first month and see what sharps are using to beat the books. Head to vsin.com/subscribe and check out all of your options. As I said, being a VSiN Pro at this time of year is important. We have people throwing picks up all the time for the NBA playoffs, and a lot of the time you're going to see them go in a night early. I know Kelly Bidlin, who was supposed to be my guest this morning, but I believe will be joining me on Friday. He posts most of his picks the night before, and he usually gets some good line movement on those. So it's a good time to be a VSiN Pro, whether you're getting picks early or getting, all of our written content, whether that's my best bets and player props or Steve Makinen's analytics pieces or anything else you see on the homepage. It's a great time to be a VSiN pro. Also, every other sport, we are covering it. It's not just the NBA right now. It's MLB, it's NFL draft, which is Thursday night. We're hitting all of it. We have a lot of in-depth coverage over on the website, but also on our VSiN network, which is just appointment viewing, pretty much from the second you wake up to the second you go to bed at this time of year. So if you want to check it out, head over to vsin.com, click to watch live, or head over to YouTube TV for the Sports Plus package. We have our, YouTube, VSiN network, which is available. And then there are plenty other ways to listen to us, but go to vsin.com for more information on all of that. And by the way, if you enjoy this podcast, we'll say this now, we'll also say it later. Please give us, a subscribe, a like, a comment, whatever you can over on, Spotify, Apple, or YouTube. We would really appreciate it. But let's get into now the games from last night, because it was a really crazy night of action. The first game was the only one that really wasn't interesting, with the Raptors and Cavaliers meeting in Cleveland again. Another kind of convincing win for the Cavaliers, and that's something I expect to see at least once in Toronto. I think the Cavaliers get out of this series in 5 or fewer games, and I only feel better about that having seen the first 2 games in this series. I just feel like in game 2, Dean Wade did a really, really good job on Brandon Ingram. Ingram went 3 for 15 from the floor, 1 for 3 from 3, and there's just not enough shot making on this Raptors team right now. We've talked about that kind of over the last couple of weeks and a little bit, throughout the course of the season, that this team really doesn't have a lot of perimeter firepower, and they especially don't have it without Emmanuel Quickly. I mean, Jamal Shed in game 2 finished with 3 points and 4 assists in 38 minutes. That is just not good enough for, a starting point guard in the NBA playoffs. And overall, there's just a little bit too much on RJ Barrett and Scotty Barnes' shoulders at the moment. Brandon Ingram absolutely has to be better for Toronto in game 3 or game 4, but I don't think you're going to see it consistently the rest of the series. And the Cavaliers have been pretty much unguardable, even, against a Raptors team that is good defensively. In game 2, we saw James Harden, Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley combined to score 83 points on highly efficient shooting. And with Harden, so far, so good. I mean, I know a lot of people like to talk about this guy as if he gets to the postseason and all of a sudden doesn't have his left arm anymore, but he can be good in certain playoff games, and it's usually towards the end of a playoff series where he falls apart a little bit. So I know a lot of people kind of took this Toronto team in this series and said, oh, I don't trust James Harden. Like, we're going to see the same old, same old. We have not seen it so far. And I still really believe in this Cavaliers team long term, especially with what we're seeing in the Pistons series against the Magic. I feel like Cleveland's going to the Eastern Conference Finals. I feel really strongly about that, especially after seeing the first 2 games of this series. I think that we've seen they have been able to lock it down defensively when they need to. They still look dangerous offensively with Harden in the half court, Mitchell using his explosiveness all over the court, and then Mobley playing well as well. This is a team that I think is clicking right now. I think they're only going to kind of build chemistry throughout this series. And if they do get kind of a weakened Pistons team or a weak Magic team in the second round, that's more time for them to just kind of gel in a playoff setting before getting to the big one in the Eastern Conference Finals, where they'd face, in my opinion, either the Celtics or the Knicks. But that was a, ugly game 2. I think that series is really ugly. I wish that we could sim to the end of that series if you're a 2K player. But yeah, this is kind of one of the ones that is not delivering right now. Just wanted to end with Cleveland staying healthy, because I do have the Cavaliers to win the Eastern Conference. So would like them to avoid injury if possible. Hawks-Knicks game 2. That was the opposite of what we saw in Raptors-Cavaliers. It was absolutely insane. I mean, the Knicks were up 14 in that game, looked like they were well on their way to cruising to a 2-0 series lead. At one point, you saw the Hawks at plus 1,800 on a live line over at DraftKings. From there, everything kind of went poorly for New York. The Knicks completely fell apart offensively. I thought there were a lot of bad decisions by Jaylen Brown. I know a lot of people are ripping Mikal Bridges for some of his shot selection, and the shot that he did miss to end the game, where the Knicks were down 1 with 6 seconds left off a missed free throw. Bridges ran up the floor, ended up taking a bad fadeaway jumper instead of going to the rim. But I do think that a lot of it falls on what Brunson was doing at the lead guard spot. This is a guy that needs to be perfect under games. He has been one of the most clutch players in the NBA, if not the most clutch player in the NBA. But I thought overall the decision-making was really bad in the second half from Brunson. and Brunson on the defensive end of the floor, that is where this game was lost because the Hawks were relentless in targeting the smaller Knicks defender. And it was a way that, like, I don't know. I'm trying to think if I've ever seen a player picked on this much. I know teams used to do it with Donovan Mitchell, teams used to do it with Trae Young, but what we saw last night was an entire offense built around getting Jalen Brunson on CJ McCollum or in pick and roll situations where players were able to just attack downhill and treat him like he wasn't even there. And McCollum ends up going for 32 points and 6 assists, pretty much with Brunson as his primary defender. I saw a stat from All City NBA that Atlanta scored 1.77 points per drive directly at Brunson in pick and rolls. That was one of the worst numbers defensively for a team this entire season, especially for players playing a certain amount of pick and rolls defensively. And Brunson absolutely reached that mark. And I just think that this is why the Hawks wanted this series because, look, they didn't play well against them in the regular season. I still don't think Atlanta's going to win this series, but I did say it before the series started. It's not crazy to me to think that, oh, like we want to face the team with Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns because those are two players you can pick on offensively. And this is not the greatest offensive team in the world in Atlanta. They don't really have, the type of primary initiator you would expect for like a contender, which is why I don't view them as a contender. But McCollum, good enough to attack Brunson every single play. And the Knicks are going to need to be way more diligent about getting Brunson either off of CJ or having Brunson just be a little bit more physical with him before he even catches the ball. But this is going to be something to watch in game 3 is just what the Knicks are able to do about getting Brunson off of McCollum, because that can't be the case in games 3 and 4, where it's just isolation after isolation. McCollum absolutely cooking one of the worst defenders in the league. You can't just allow that to happen. So interested in seeing what Mike Brown does with kind of the adjustments there. I also will say, like, the Knicks need to be better offensively, because one of the things that we did see Quinn Snyder go to in game 2 was a lineup with no Dyson Daniels and with Jonathan Kuminga out there. Daniels is one of the best defensive players in the NBA, like maybe a top 3 perimeter defender in the entire league. So having him off the floor should hurt you defensively. And Kuminga is not a good defensive player himself. The Knicks were not able to make the Hawks pay for bringing one of the best defenders off the floor and replacing him with a minus level defensive player on the other end of the floor. So that's one way New York could potentially get it back in game 3 is like, all right, they're going to be great offensively, like they were in game 2, but we need to be better, and we can be better. So not only does Brunson just need to be, less kind of glaring weakness defensively, but they just need to be better offensively, because this, Hawks team should be attackable on this end of the floor. Like, there needs to be way more of an effort to get Karl-Anthony Towns the ball. I know he was in a bit of foul trouble in game 2, but there was just not enough Towns in the fourth quarter. There wasn't enough anyone in the fourth quarter. It was a lot of hero ball from Brunson. And then, the Hawks were sending doubles. Bad decisions were being made after that, but they need to run some offense through some players other than Brunson. That's why Mike Brown is here, by the way. Like, I said it during the regular season. I said it before the regular season. Brown was brought in to kind of make this offense a little less predictable and make it a little less reliant on Jalen Brunson. And sure, I said Brown's kind of safety blanket or security blanket, whatever you want to call it, is that he can lean on Brunson as a hero ball player late in games if the other stuff isn't working. But you got to give it a chance to get it working at some point. Like, you can't just rely on Brunson to play hero ball this early. Otherwise, you're just Tom Thibodeau with worse playoff rotations, because Brown was playing a lot of bench units. There was some like hockey sub going on, is what one of my friends who's a Knicks fan was saying. But yeah, like, if you're just going to ride Brunson into the ground the way that Tibbs did, and you're doing it with these lineups, you're just a worse version of Tibbs. So Brown needs to show everyone why he was brought in. And we saw it throughout the regular season. There were times where this offense looked a lot better. It needs to start looking better as soon as game 3. Otherwise, the Knicks are in trouble. All right. And then the final game of the night, which was also completely bonkers. Timberwolves beat the Nuggets 119-114. This is a game where Denver had a 19-point lead in the first half, and that lead just evaporated so fast in the second quarter. And I really think that there was a technical foul in the second quarter that really kind of sucked the air out of the stadium and really just took the life out of this Nuggets team. And those are the types of things That can't happen in the postseason. Like, you just can't lose your momentum for something dumb like that. And it is exactly what I think happened. I think that this team was flying all around the court. They saw, that technical happened. You have to stop the game. You go to the line. It gets a little quiet, it gets a little boring. And from there, Minnesota played hungry. So that was a team that took advantage of that moment. And the Timberwolves did do just a much better job of a few things that I said we would maybe see heading into game two. First of all, the ball movement was way better in game two. Everybody was touching the ball. It wasn't just Ant attacking the basket. And that actually made things easier on Ant when he did attack the basket. And by the way, in terms of attacking the basket, they were relentlessly attacking Nikola Jokic in this game. So it was kind of the theme of the night. It's the theme of the postseason always, is like which matchups you could take advantage of, which weak player defensively can you pick on. It was Brunson in the Knicks game. It was the Joker in this Nuggets Timberwolves game. They went at him every single time. They were not afraid of his lack of rim protection whatsoever. He was doing nothing in terms of contesting shots, which was terrible for me because I had over 2.5 blocks and steals in the game, but they were just going right at the rim, getting easy buckets at the rim, and then that was opening things up from beyond the 3-point line. And it was just a way better offensive performance of Minnesota. It wasn't the best Joker performance offensively, and we'll just see what happens moving forward. I mean, I still think this is a series the Nuggets are going to win, but we saw some big adjustments from Chris Finch in game two, whether that was going at Jokic, telling his players to share the ball a little bit more, tightening his rotation a little bit. They played 10 players in game one. That was not what happened in game two. And just overall, I think it was just a much better effort from the entire team. But special shout out to Julius Randle, who I thought played a really good game too. And just Jaden McDaniels played a little bit better defensively in this game. But I still think this Denver team wins this series somewhat easily. And I don't love that McDaniels went to the podium after the game. Maybe it was in the locker room, not the podium. And he literally called out defender by defender on the Nuggets, saying Jokic, Jamal Murray, Cam Johnson, Aaron Gordon, Tim Hardaway Jr. He said the whole squad, they're all bad defenders. That's a quote. And he definitely is going to rattle the cage in that Denver locker room. I think you're going to see a bit of a better performance in the Nuggets defensively in game three. But man, like, this is another one where we have ourselves a series again. I think a lot of people expected this to be a series. I know JVT had over 5.5 games in this series. I did say that while I like the Nuggets to win this series, over 5.5 games was my lean as well. I think this Minnesota team is very, very good, but I do think Denver should figure out a way to win. I think they're going to win one of the two games in Minnesota, get home court advantage back, and win. But man, it was a really bad just kind of collapse from this Nuggets team. It looked like they were going to smoke this Timberwolves team. And I will add, like, fourth quarter, I thought they looked so tired. And I don't know why. Like, playing in Denver, you're supposed to be the more comfortable team in the fourth quarter in the final 12 minutes. That was not the case whatsoever. They looked gassed. They looked unorganized. I thought the Timberwolves were doing a really good job with second chance opportunities. Gobert was a beast when he was in. So that was also something that played, that was well. But I do think, like, this is now the most interesting series to me, because I kind of think that the other series will sort themselves out. We'll see the favorites, but this is now my most interesting series because I think Minnesota, I said it all year, I have futures on Minnesota to win the Western Conference and to win the NBA Finals. Don't feel great about those hitting. Those are kind of ones that, like, I pushed them to the side in terms of, like, in my brain, like, they're going to count towards my record as all my plays do. But I just didn't think the Timberwolves were going to have a chance of winning after kind of seeing the way the second half of the season went. But I've said all year long that, like, this roster and what they have shown they can do in the postseason, they are great defensively and they are better offensively in the postseason for a postseason setting than they are in a regular season setting. So this is a scary team, and the Nuggets are my pick to win the NBA championship. So this is a scary first round series, but it was an awesome game. And I did say before signing off last night or yesterday, before the episode ended, that I was hoping for some good games. So as a bettor, last night sucked, but as a basketball fan, it was freaking awesome. And I would like to see more of those games the rest of the way. These plays that you're making, like, yes, it's very nice to win money, and I'm hoping to give you picks that win every single day. But at the end of the day, these are supposed to be for fun. And if you are losing enough that you can enjoy the type of basketball that we saw last night, that's where there's an issue. So lower units if that's the case. But yeah, this is supposed to be an enjoyable postseason. When there's good basketball games, basketball fans should be happy. So I do hope to get back in the win column tonight, but it was an awesome night of hoops last night. Attention to any listeners who are new to VSiN, signing up for our free daily newsletter is a great way to catch up. Delivered straight to your inbox every morning, VSiN's newsletter offers picks, data, and strategies for the day's betting menu. Sign up for free now at vsin.com/newsletter and start receiving your free newsletter tomorrow morning. That's vsin.com/newsletter. Stay ahead of the game and bet smarter with VSiN. All right. Well, I've talked your ears off about these games, and now I just want to recap my best bets and get you out of here. I have Jaylen Brown over 25.5 points at -113 versus the 76ers. I played that to win 1.5 units. Then I risked a half a unit on Brown to score 30 plus at +200. I also have the Trailblazers plus 12.5 points at -120 versus the Spurs, and the Lakers plus 5.5 at -115 versus the Rockets. So 3 picks for me for tonight. Would love to get back in the win column after a really bad night last night. Saturday was a great day. Sunday and Monday, not so much, but we'll see. It's been a bit of an up and down season, so hopefully it's upcoming. But yeah, I do feel still pretty good about the way I'm reading these games. Like I still feel like last night I was just robbed. So hopefully tonight we get back in the win column. Hopefully it's a good night, but hopefully if you tell me, best of luck this evening. Either way, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please like, comment, rate, subscribe. As I said before, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, whatever you can do to help us out, we would really much, very much appreciate it. And please join us for a Wednesday episode of Hardwood Handicappers, where we will be breaking down what we see in the games for tonight, but then also looking ahead to those Wednesday night games where it should be another great night of NBA action. So loving these playoffs so far. Hopefully you're enjoying the pod, and we will keep doing more of these breakdowns and have more picks for you.